And it from three. Hull comes soaring in again. This uncanny knack. And cashes in.
Is on the upper left wing. Just got inside. Circles around. Pure.
Let's just be honest. Game 3 wasn't basketball. It was robbery in broad daylight, and every single person watching knew it. The Indiana Fever came out sharp, aggressive, and absolutely locked in. They built a lead the hard way, scrapping for rebounds, grinding on defense, and hitting shots under pressure. Every possession felt like a war, and for once, Indiana was winning that war. Then, out of nowhere, everything changed. A barrage of whistles, one after the other, flipped the scoreboard in real time. In seconds, the flow was gone. The crowd went from roaring to stunned silence. Instead of seeing a finals-caliber battle play out, fans were watching the officials drag Indiana's momentum away by force. The Las Vegas Aces suddenly looked like they were scrimmaging at the charity stripe, practically living at the foul line. Aaliyah Wilson was throwing elbows in the paint like it was a mosh pit, yet somehow every touch from Aaliyah Boston was blown dead. Even when Boston tried to challenge, even when the Fever bench begged for a review, it was like the officials had already made up their minds. No recognition, no fairness, no balance. Everyone inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse saw it. They weren't imagining things. Social media exploded instantly, fans posting clips, slow-motion breakdowns, and side-by-side comparisons of the calls. And then there's the box score, the cold, hard proof. It doesn't whisper, it screams the truth. The Aces didn't outplay Indiana. They were handed that one gift-wrapped by whistles. And here's the real sting. All of that chaos completely buried what should have been remembered as Lexie Hull's shining moment, the game where she poured her heart and body onto the floor. Instead of headlines about her grit and resilience, the story turned into one word: officiating. So now, everything boils down to this question: can the Fever actually recover from this? Or has the series been tilted beyond repair?
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm. It's about timing. It's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
And let's be clear, this wasn't just about Game 3. The pattern was there from the very beginning of the series. Anyone paying attention could see it. In Game 1, Las Vegas didn't storm back with some spectacular run of dominance. No, they crawled back possession by simply living at the free throw line. Indiana's physical defense, what made them so tough all season, was suddenly treated as if it belonged to a completely different rulebook. Hands up, bodying inside, clean contests, whistle. Meanwhile, when Vegas cranked up their physicality, it magically passed as just hard playoff basketball. The double standard wasn't subtle, it was screaming from the first tip. Then came Game 2, and that imbalance only got louder. Fouls piled up so fast it felt like the referees had a personal timer set to 10 seconds. Every trip down the court, play stopped, whistle blown, rhythm shattered. How do you run an offense when you can't string together 2 clean possessions? How do you build momentum when the other team is getting free points without even breaking a sweat? Stephanie White, Indiana's coach, said it herself after the game. When there's a whistle every 10 seconds, you can't find a rhythm. You can't get up and down the floor. You can't play the style of basketball you've been building all year. Offense isn't just about skill, it's about timing, spacing, rhythm. And Vegas's whistles turned all of that into rubble. By the time Game 3 tipped off, the writing was already on the wall. This wasn't a random fluke. It was a pattern cemented over 2 games. But in Game 3, that pattern became something even worse. It didn't just tip the balance. It built a wall Indiana could not climb. Every time they started to get momentum, every time they looked ready to deliver a knockout punch, the whistles dragged them back down. What started as frustration in Game 1 became suffocation by Game 3.
Aaliyah Wilson sets a screen where she extends her leg out, but of course they call the foul on Lexie Hull for Aaliyah Wilson's illegal screen. Then Aaliyah Wilson and Alyssa Smith totally foul Michaela Timpson, but there is no call. Could have took a 1-point lead going into half. Now we're up by 3 and they call a foul that isn't a foul. So we don't get calls when we're getting hit, but the Aces get a call.
The breaking point came in the third quarter. Boston challenged a foul call on Jackie Young. The Fever bench was ready. The fans were buzzing, waiting for the review. The refs? Nothing. Not even a glance. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray buried a 3. In that single moment, the entire arena flipped from electric energy to stunned silence. Clips of the sequence went viral instantly. Not just the ignored challenge, but the chain reaction, a stolen chance at review, followed by an Aces dagger. It wasn't just bad luck, it was momentum ripped away by officiating. Here's the ugly truth. What the Aces did and got away with, Indiana was punished for. Illegal screens, shoves in the back, flailing arms. Ignored if you wore black and red. But the second a Fever player touched someone, the whistle blew. That doesn't create momentum. That manufactures it. The Aces weren't building runs through dominance. They were gift-wrapped possessions through whistles.
Aaliyah Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul called.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner.
And yet, one player refused to let the story end there. Lexie Hull. She wasn't even supposed to play. Back injury, questionable status, limited in warm-ups. But instead of giving the Fever a few cautious minutes, she turned Game 3 into the best playoff performance of her career. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. 6 of 10 from the field. 3 clutch threes that kept Indiana alive when the game threatened to spiral. And here's the kicker. Those threes tied a Fever playoff record in just 2 games. But it wasn't just numbers. It was the way she played. Diving on the hardwood. Boxing out players way bigger than her. Fighting for loose balls. Then calmly knocking down shots with her face twisted in pain. Every single time the refs tried to deflate Indiana, Hull gave them a jolt of life. And the crowd felt it. Now flip to the other side. Aaliyah Wilson, the supposed unstoppable MVP. She opened the game with a 3-pointer. Looked like the start of a dominant night. Instead, she went ice cold. 13 points on 20 shots. That's not just bad by her standards. That's flat out bad for any starter in the league. And the reason wasn't just an off night. It was Aaliyah Boston. Possession after possession, she forced Wilson into uncomfortable, awkward shots. But instead of crediting Boston, the narrative after the game softened Wilson's performance with talk of all-around impact. No, shooting 30% on 20 attempts isn't impact. It's elite defense staring you in the face.
2-minute recap from last night. So Aaliyah Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Alyssa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then Aaliyah Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Alyssa Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
The truth is, Vegas didn't win because Wilson carried them. Jackie Young did, dropping 25 and silencing every Fever run. Chelsea Gray added 15 steady points. And role players chipped in just enough. Combine that with whistle after whistle, and the Aces survived a night when their superstar simply wasn't there. That's not dominance. That's escape. And then came the post-game irony. Becky Hammon complained that Wilson only shot 1 free throw in 38 minutes. Think about that. After 3 games where Vegas practically lived at the stripe, the defending champs are now worried about not getting calls. That's not frustration. That's fear. That's a team so used to favorable whistles that the thought of a fair fight feels like disadvantage.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then Aaliyah Wilson sets an illegal screen, and they tied things up. And then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul for doing nothing when they just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Aaliyah Boston gets called for this foul. for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then A'ja Wilson starts acting like a big baby.
Now everything turns to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Over 17,000 fans are expected, and it won't be noise, it'll be chaos. Every Boston post-up, every Mitchell three, every Hull hustle play will turn that building into a storm Vegas hasn't handled all year. Indiana's plan is no secret. Feed Boston early. Force Wilson to defend without shortcuts. Get Kelsey Mitchell going in the first quarter, because when she catches fire, leads build fast. And keep Hull's energy alive, even through pain, because her grit is contagious. Vegas has cracks. Wilson's confidence is rattled. Jackie Young is carrying too much, and their depth looks shaky outside of home. Game 4 is where you hit those weak points over and over until something breaks. Let's be clear, Indiana didn't lose Game 3. It was stolen. They built the lead, they played the defense, and the whistles erased it. That's not basketball. That's interference. Game 4 isn't just survival now. It's redemption. It's about showing that when the whistles stop, the Fever can stand toe-to-toe with the champions. If Hull pushes through the pain again, if Mitchell heats up, if Boston keeps locking down Wilson, Gainbridge will erupt, and the entire series flips.
Thought she got hit a lot tonight. To shoot one free throw in 38 minutes. I know they told me not to say anything, but I can't.
Sunday isn't just another playoff game. It's Indiana's chance to prove they're more than underdogs. To prove Game 3 wasn't talent versus talent. It was whistles versus reality. So I'll ask you, do you believe the Fever can bounce back? If yes, drop "Let's Go Fever" in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust me, this series is far from over.